Thank you very much, and I appreciate those of you who have stayed with the program enough so that I am here. And I am here as part of Tut Alts, because Tut Alts means that you need to take every opportunity. So I want to thank whoever put my name forward for giving me this opportunity. So I've been in and out some time today, and I have to, it clarified the point that I wish to share with you tonight. So let me tell you what the point is, and then I will lose it in a bunch of tangents. Tut als was ihr kennt. There's an ear over here, and that ear is you, me, and each individual. To do that, we have to know who we are. And it should be simple, because this is a basic tenet within Chabad doctrine, which is the cheshbon hanefesh of knowing who you are. And it's important because it's impossible to practice Chabad Chassidus without that. Yet, having grown up in a world that was enriched by many, many personalities and figures that I experienced, the one thing missing throughout my personal education system was not when to do a cheshbon hanefesh and why you need to do a cheshbon hanefesh, but how to do a cheshbon hanefesh. Now, why is it important in this arena? Is I was a bacher when this Sicha was said, and it was shocking to the system, to put it mildly. And I want to say up front, I am not from the people that knew what was going on behind. I was there's a term, an afroyach shaloi niftecha einav. I was like a chick whose eyes had not yet been opened. I was still desperately trying to figure out how 770 works, how New York works, how things work. And other speakers spoke more to the 10,000 foot level. But I do remember vividly that there was a group that was formed and had a general meeting in 770. And the resolution was to put signs up from Eastern Parkway to Lefferts Boulevard, from Troy Avenue to Brooklyn Avenue, on every Jewish house, announcing the Hikoinu L'Bias Moshiach. And it reminded me that we live in a very parochial world, a world of the familiar, and a world that's not yet broken out. The Rebbe wants us to do everything to bring about Moshiach. Today, if you want to do anything, you want to be an influencer. That's the big word that's used. You've got to buy your own product, and you've got to use your own product. And then you have to get on social media and smile about using your own product. There was this disaster of a Pesach counter covers that took place in New York because someone decided to go on social media and sell up this product, and whatever the disaster that was. So the question really is, what can you do to bring Moshiach? What can I do to bring Moshiach? Chassidus in general opened up our eyes. Instead of focusing narrowly on our own good life and the life of Olam Haba to come, Chassidus focused us on the idea that there's a Ribono Shel Olam who actually created this world because he wants something out of creation. And I apologize if this is completely wrong, but what the Rebbe did is he took that telescope and he focused the lens, and he said, look in the telescope, Moshiach. It's not only that. You're not looking through a telescope, you're looking through a microscope. It's so close. And the frustration that the Rebbe had as to trying to understand why the Hisgalus of Moshiach hasn't yet happened was palpable. If you stood in the Sichos, you heard what the Rebbe was talking about. So I would suggest, because I can only talk some practical things, that if we want to spread this message of Yiddishkeit, Chassidus, and especially living with Moshiach, then it's time we live with Moshiach. It really is time we start living with Moshiach. And what is living with Moshiach? So we know this Rambam that tells us what living with Moshiach is so ingrained within our DNA that when they take a blood test, together with your cholesterol levels, there is also Rambam, Perek, Yud Beis of Hilchas Malachim, is you can measure it in your blood charts. And the Rambam writes that the Chachomim and the Nevi'im looked forward, not because they wanted to be the kings of the castles, they didn't want to be in charge of anything. And they didn't even want to get their own little country. You know, there were those who were waiting for their Shai Olam, as it says, the Kodesh Baruch Hu is going to give Tzaddikim 310 worlds, and people are already fantasizing about space travel, so each of us can have our own 310 worlds. And we don't even want to be, we don't want to eat and go to shopping in these fancy new restaurants and the groceries in Brooklyn. And the reason we need world peace is that we shouldn't be bothered. I know those of you who have a similar background to mine, recently historical intergenerational trauma we experienced when the train station in Kremenchuk was bombed, and they missed my father, Olav Shalom, by 80 years. Mamish 80 years, they missed him by the trauma that I experienced was something else. Today we all have to suffer the chashtikal of that. We have an opportunity, the Rebbe said, we can open our eyes. What is the concept of opening our eyes? That clip with Rabbi Samuels is a moidendik. And by the way, Rabbi Samuels has a person whose life he influenced in a very big way, Shabsi ben Sarah, who needs a refuah shleima. I went to visit him. Rabbi Samuels is an amazing tzaddik nister who exists within our circles. But there's not going to be a Rav, there's not going to be Milchama, there's not going to be Kina, and there's not going to be Tachus. We suffer today from obesity as a rule. We don't suffer from malnutrition. Malnutrition, unfortunately, is a disease of the wealthy. But we do have Kina and Tachus. We have people who live rent-free in our heads. We have people who live rent-free in our heads. Everyone is Baruch Hashem, ungeschenkt mit Zors. Why do I say Baruch Hashem? Because it says in the Alter Rebbe writes, Siman Yud Alpha, the Eibush is going to test us. The Eibush is going to test us. And every stage in life, every 10 years, if you look at your life, every 10 years had its unique challenges. And the question is, Chassidus comes along and tells us in Tanya very clearly, there's a way to work with those challenges. The Rebbe gifted us this idea that we can focus, another tool in that arsenal, which is not just which is a reality, but we can do it through the lenses of Mashiach. And the lenses of Mashiach is we need to realize that that we live in a time that is so rich. But if you have kina, if you're jealous, you're not rich, you're poor. You're not from the 1%ers. And we are, Baruch Hashem, growing as a community. They're the haves and the have-nots. But I would say it's wrong. We all have, and other people have snot. They've got a lot, but they have nothing. They've got more than you, but what do they have? They have more, and they're ending up in the spiritual morticians. It's killing them. Why? Because when you get involved in Olam Haza is a trap. And we have a chance to live in a world. What are people looking for? I live in the state of Colorado, and Beheter, they sold last year $1.2 billion worth of marijuana. Why did they sell it? Because there are people in pain. There are so many people in pain. Beretnish, the people who make Kiddush on Wednesday morning, the alcohol stores are full, and people are escaping the pain. Why are they escaping the pain? Because they're asking themselves a question of what is this all for? And what is the one thing? The one thing that Moshiach is the answer to why the Eibishter created the world. It's as simple as that. But to do that, you have to check in with yourself. I see a chaver of mine. I live on a very liberal university campus. I live on a liberal campus, and I can't stand them. Why can't I stand them? Not because they're wrong. I also want to advocate for saving the turtles, whatever, and not using plastics. Alles good and fine, except for Pesach. Pesach, if you don't use disposables, is you're a mamsha rasha to your wife. You have to be completely disposable on Pesach. But for the rest of the year, for Yom Kippur, I hit an extra al-chet for the environmental damage that I do to the world. But what is it? They're all trying to get somebody else to change their life, and if the other person changes their life, then my life will be perfect. And Achmanu Litzlan, if I can't convince people to pass a new amendment or to vote for the right person, then the whole world's going to collapse. Global warming, it's the end of the world is coming if everybody else doesn't change. The Rebbe with 3 words over here, tut als was ihr kennt. We know we need to change the world and other people. We've got miftzayim for that. And there were people who speculate why the Rebbe said 1, 2, 3, Redzach Hadur. I don't have any interpretation of that other than to say, if you can find 1 or 2 people who are safe people to talk to, who can be mashpiyim in your life, then there are 3 people that the Rebbe talked about that are helping you being outs to outs. And it's you. So I'm going to suggest a very simple thing. Take a pen and paper and make a list of the people you're jealous of. The people you're in conflict with, whether it's somebody in your life, children, parents, spouse, whatever it could be. Who are you in a war with? Who are you jealous of? They could intertwine. Usually it's connected. Why? Because they're not measurable. They're not measurable. Moshiach is going to come. There's going to be one thing, L'dasis Shem B'lvad, and we know what that is. That is Torah Shel Mashiach. What is the Torah of Mashiach? It's sitting on your bookshelf. And for those of you that are ultra frum, you dust off Torah Shel Mashiach from Pesach to Pesach. Otherwise, the Torah of Mashiach sits and gathers dust. And we're too busy trying to find out If maybe we can talk to Berol Azar, Zolared mit Putin, Zolared mit Kamenetsky, if she can make shalom over there, stop it. There's not going to be any milchamas in this world we're looking for, so start living that. Start living that. I'm going to make a suggestion to make a achlata this Chav Ches Nissen, and if you join me in this achlata, by next Chav Ches Nissen, your connection to the Rebbe will grow. And the achlata is very, very, very simple. We need to start learning the Torah of Moshiach. And the problem is the Torah of Moshiach is very deep and very complicated. And for this, like everything else in life, there's an app. It's called Project Likkutei Sichos. Any Lubavitcher phone that doesn't have Project Likkutei Sichos is you're taking technology shelo b'mkoyma. And if you need to lie down in the middle of the day and clear your head, you go to sleep with some beautiful questions and you wake up and it's all resolved. Happens like Moshiach. It's simple. What's going to happen if you listen and you follow Project Likkutei Sichos 1 week, we're better, 1 week less? Your emotional energy will be spent already. And when somebody comes and says, somebody aggrieved you, you say, okay. We used to have a thing called road rage. What was road rage? A person was having a miserable day and he has a fender bender and he comes out of his car and he kills the other person. Why? Because they were a powder keg. As you get older, the world puts blinders on your face. You realize what you're not good at. And you get really upset about it. Because when you're a bacher in the back of 770, for those of us who were there, in the days where the back of 770 ran the world, the whole world was in your hands. And as you get married, your shlichus in the world becomes clearer and clearer. And then if the Eibishter benches you with kids, your kids are there to be an instant humility reminder of everything you need to be humble about. And you start to get into a rut. But you don't have to be in a rut, because we have Chassidus that teaches us that Hashgacha Pratis has taken you exactly where you need to be. Yaakov Avinu crosses back to get the Pachim Ketanim, Chavivim Yosim Igufam, with our money is more important than we are, because every little thing we have is important. And what's it important for? To bring Mashiach. The whole Yaakov Avinu encountering Esav is Bias Mashiach. Everything is Bias Mashiach. But if that's the case, why are we wasting our energy on Kina and Taivas and Kovet? Not that I don't appreciate when I come to New York and this frische Pas Yisrael and Chol of Yisrael. My Nefesh Bahamas enjoys it. But that's not why the Chachamim wanted to have fresh delivered Chol of Yisrael every morning. The Likkutei Sichos in my days was a mes mitzvah upon delivery. What do I mean by that? 18 minutes after Tzeisa Kechavim, derech gagos ukarpifiois, the warm, fresh printed Sicha would come downstairs, just in time for a bacha to glance at it before you went to eat by Balabatim. The next day, Baruch Hashem, there was a new chef and a new gilui, there was a new fabrenga. So what happened to the Sicha? It was a mes mitzvah. I remember early when I was a kid, my father used to get a brown envelope from the Vad when somebody finally decided to stuff the envelopes and send them to the Iyam HaRachoikim. So you get a Sicha from 6-7 weeks ago would come with printed matter on the thing. And I remember there were 27 subscribers to the Rebbe's Sicha in Melbourne. 27. Today, we don't know how many people are learning Project Likkutei Sichos, because a lot of people are really going over to the bookshelf and they've breathed life into the Torah of Moshiach. But from the website, the downloads and everything else, we know Beli Guzman from the apps, there are thousands upon thousands of people who are learning Torah Shel Mashiach in a way it's never been learned. So I want to give you a money-back guarantee. If you make a commitment tonight to study 2 Sichos of the Rebbe every single week, even if it means on a bad week, like the week before Pesach, you listen to the 10-minute Sicha, and just to be oitzer, to check it. I promise you, your life will be richer. Your life will be richer because you'll be connected to the Nasi Ador. You'll be bothered all week with trying to understand something. Your head will be full of the Rebbe's Torah. You'll become free. Does that mean your kids won't bug you? Your kids will bug you. The landlord will bug you. The same tzaras, the oilam kamin hage noheg. The only difference is you're not going to be living in that world anymore. You're not going to be living in that world anymore. When somebody says to you, "How was your week?" and you say, there was something, I wanted to get into the hardest this week, and I never managed to do it. You know what? They're looking at you, was bist du geworden, Rosh Yeshivitz im älteren Jahren? And the answer is, this is also Dukenstan, and that will create, it will make us better people. And if we become better people, then we are living Moshiach, then the world is ready for that. Which world? The world we can influence. Because walking around Zitrogen, because somebody else is living rent-free in your head, you know how much money people pay to therapists to evict people who live in their heads for free? And here you have it. This is Torah Shel Mashiach. You don't need the Reader's Digest Chachmas that somebody's charging you to listen to. Like Kina like Tachris, write down who you're in a conflict with. And if you have emotional energy to be in a conflict with them, you're obviously not spending it on Ladasas Hashem Bilvad. And therefore, my friends, I want to thank you for this, but please take a minute and write down. Realize, it's amazing. It's amazing. And it's up to us. Even the Rambam says, each one of us is different. There are Rosh Yeshiva here. There are Mechabrei Sfarim here. Why was I invited? I don't know, but that became part of the Atul Altsus to Kent. You know, that became my part. Nobody is asking you to be them. And I remember as a bacher, the helpless feeling that the Rebbe said, can people get together? And these people came up and I said, I wouldn't let them park my car. I wouldn't give them the keys to park my car. And they're the ones who are never going to bring us Moshiach. They were right for them. That's their world. What is the world you live in? Start to influence yourself. You will influence your world because everyone today just wants to be happy. You go down the street and you see somebody, as I don't know what they're on, and I say to myself, I don't know what they're on, but I just want a little bit of it. That's all. I'm not doing very good because there's a person over there on the 6th screen who's got a weird name and hasn't downloaded this thing. Hasn't downloaded it. There's kosher phones and there's holy phones. Kosher phones you can buy in from stores. Holy phones have to have Project Likkutei Sichos on them.